G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be answering all the questions you guys have been giving about all the new teams forming around the world because we have some ridiculous new teams on the block. We have Aqua and Tayson finally finding their permanent trios, which I didn't really expect, but they're both looking really, really good. We have confirmation that Clix did leave Riversan. He's no longer playing with him. He's found a new team, but he's now dropping on Riversan, who's also found a new team. So that is looking super, super exciting. And honestly, I could see any of these new teams winning FNCS in their respective region. And talking about FNCS, after my last video, a bunch of you guys had a question on how FNCS works. I'm confused. How do you qualify? What are the rules? How should I play it? I'm going to answer all of that at the end of today's video and make it nice and simple so you know exactly how the format for FNCS works. Remember guys, if you like this kind of content, please chuck a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It would mean the world to me. I'm also live every single day at twitch.tv/AussieAntics. Swing by, I'd love to say g'day. Let's start off with NA East because there has been some major team shuffles over there. Everyone is still reeling from Zate retiring. All the teams are trying to reshuffle and figure out what's going on. So let's start off with all the teams that are affected. So as of last week, the teams were looking like Creo, Avery, Illust, Clix, Riversan, Day, and then Bizzle, Calc, and Furious. These are the three main teams that have now shuffled. We now have Creo, Avery, and Clix. So Clix has taken Illust's spot because Illust is now gone to play with Riversan and Furious. Now, that might sound weird, but if you watched FNCS last year, they actually were one of the best teams coming into FNCS. They won the warm-up. They were popping off. They were actually one of my picks to win FNCS. They were literally the most dominant team, and then Riversan out of nowhere split with them to go play with Mega and Dubs, which didn't end up working the best, so it looks like they're giving it another go. So we now are back to Riversan, Illust, and Furious. We got the insane IGL with the two controller fraggers, which leaves Calc and Bizzle now kind of on their own. I don't know who Calc and Bizzle are playing with. Bizzle is playing, was yesterday playing with Haz in the scrims, but I don't think he's going to be permanent with Haz. Don't know what's going on with Calc. I guess we're going to see in the next few days, and this is the issue with Zate retiring. There's always one team that gets left one player short. But the most interesting thing about these new teams, Creo, Avery, Clix, dropping Lazy Lake. Riversan, Illust, and Furious also dropping Lazy Lake, and things went down in scrims yesterday. We had 8 games of NA East Pro scrims yesterday, and I want to detail how it went so you've got a bit of an understanding of what's going on with these teams, because it was exciting. So of the 8 games they played yesterday, in game 1, Riversan's team didn't connect, so Clix obviously walked off spawn. Game 2 was the first time they contested each other, and this is where things got interesting. It was going to set the pace, it was going to set the tone for the rest of these spawn fights. And unfortunately, it didn't really go the way anyone wanted. It stalemated. Both the teams got frustrated, both the teams set up in different buildings, farmed them out, based up. Neither of them wanted to be the first team to lose on that spawn, because the game 1, the first time you contest each other after making a new team, especially when you're going up against Clix, who's streaming it to tens of thousands of people, no one wants to lose. But unfortunately, as a result of this, no one won either. They technically both lost. They both made it off spawn. They both had no loot. They had no meds. They were shambles, and they both died before top 50. So technically, no one won the spawn fight, and no one lost it, I guess. It was a really unsatisfying ending, but game 3, this is where it kicked off. Game 3 was the first game they clashed, and Clix's team did win. Everyone was hyped from Clix's fan party. Everyone in Clix's chat was getting hyped. Clix was getting hyped. It was a good, conclusive fight. They just beat them within the first minute of dropping. They outplayed them. They got better loot. They rushed them, and they died. It was a clean sweep. Clix's team went on to play really, really well. Again, their first time playing into endgame as a team. Didn't go the best, but it didn't go poorly either. But game 4, this is where things thought, okay, maybe Clix's team's going to run away with it. And they didn't. Game 4 and 5, they lost both of them. Game 6, they were uncontested. So again, Clix's team got into the game. Riversan's team didn't. So of course they won, but it doesn't really count. Then game 7, they lost. But this one was insanely close. This is the closest one we had so far. It came down to, unfortunately, Creo and Clix having to 2v1 against Illust. Illust backed out, got the reboot off, and then it went down and it swung back against Clix, and they lost. So game 7 they lost, and game 8 they lost. So of the 6 games when they both got into the game, Clix's team only won 1 of them, but 1 stalemated. So technically, if you're asking me, in my books, in my unbiased opinion, you can't really disagree with this. I know teams will always change the score and say what they like. It's 4-1 against Clix right now. They've only won one time, like conclusively won, when they dropped on them. So I don't know if they're going to leave Lazy Lake. It's only day one. This new team is trying to figure it out. I touched on it earlier. Riversun, Illust, and Furious have so much experience when it comes to Lazy Lake. They were dropping their all last trio FNCS before they split. Illust has still been dropping their all this FNCS, so they've got a lot of experience. And when you look at the spawn fighting teams and you have to pick which is stronger, it's hard. Creo is one of the best fighting IGLs in the game. You obviously back that up with Clix and Avery. You've got a massive firepower team. But you're going up against Riversun, but Illust and Furious, like two of the best fraggers in NA East on the same team, two controller players in a high building kind of battle scenario where sightlines and aim is everything. They kind of have them outmatched at this point. It doesn't look, I don't know if it's going to stay this way. We'll have to see. But right now, this is one of the most exciting spawn fights to watch, guaranteed. I should probably put this clip in almost every video, but this very well could change right now. NA East is shaking up very quickly. Even today, for example, Clix wasn't playing in scrims with Creo and Avery. He was talking to Ronaldo and he said that he might not be permanent. He might have been dropped. They're trialing out Jampa, so he could very well go back and play with them. They could play with Jampa. And one of the main reasons he quoted, which is pretty much the issue he's going to keep running into, is they don't want him to play if he's going to stream scrims. They don't want to play with someone who streams. So unfortunately, it might look like Clix is teamless again, but I'm not entirely sure. If this changes massively and there's even more details come out, you know I'll include it in a later video. Now, that might not be the only exciting spawn fight to look out for, because swinging over to EU, we've got some major excitement on our hands right now. We have Tayson finally locking down a team, finally deciding who he's going to play with. He's going to play with Queasy and Chapix. Now, he made a tweet announcing this, and he announced in the tweet the reason for his decision was now that there's no mobility in the game and that IGLs reign supreme, he wants to play with a smarter player, and he knows that Queasy will be able to help out with that, and that's what influenced his decision. Now, when I talk about spawn fights though, the other big team that just got announced was CRR, Wolfies, and Aqua. Now, I talked about how CRR and Wolfies said that if a console FNCS was announced, they were going to switch to console. Well, obviously, as you guys know, as everyone in the community is talking about, there is no console FNCS. So they're teaming up with Aqua. And now, where are these teams dropping? Salty Towers. They have both said they're going to Salty Towers. Now, this one's interesting because Tayson publicly posted it on Twitter. Now, CRR, Wolfies, and Aqua did not, but I DM'd CRR and I said, hey man, where are you guys planning on going? He told me Salty, and I said, hey, are you okay with me sharing that? Like, are you okay with me sharing that information? He said yes. So I know there's not as many pro scrims in EU. I don't know if either of these teams have access to Baguette Customs. I'm pretty sure both of them have players that are specifically banned from Baguette Customs, which is the French scrims. So I don't know whether we're going to see them maybe until Cash Cups or whether we're going to have to wait until literally FNCS. But at this point in time, we have two of the best new teams in EU announced, both going Salty Towers to test their mettle against each other. And if there's any scrims or any perspective of this, you know I'm going to be watching it and you know I'm going to be talking about it. But as it stands right now, those are the two teams. And I mean, if you want my opinion on how they're looking, pretty insane. A lot of people talked about the Aqua team going to be the Sui height team every time. They're just going to full send it on height. You have Aqua, one of the most aggressive and most mechanical IGLs. You pair that with two controller players like CRR and Wolfies. If they get high ground, it is going to be absolutely wraps for the rest of the lobby beneath them. With no shockwaves, no rift fish, it is a lot harder to take someone off high ground if they know how to play it and if they're applying pressure. And that's all this team's going to do. But again, Queasy, Tayson, and Chapix, those are three veterans who have been placing insanely well. Tayson looking to try and pick up his third FNCS title. Maybe the first person to ever do it back-to-back in two trio FNCSs. It could be exciting to see. I wouldn't count them out. Out of the two teams, I don't really know who I have pegged to win this one. When it comes to the spawn fight as well, maybe CRR, Wolfies, and Aqua, they seem to have just a bit more fighting power on spawn, but that's still a terrifying team. I don't know. All right, a lot of you guys are confused on how FNCS is going to work, and I don't blame you. It looks quite confusing on face value, but I'll break it down for you. I'll make it nice and simple, and it really is a great format. So I'm going to have my editor throw it up on the screen. We're going to follow along, and I'm going to explain all of it. So there are 3 weeks of qualifiers that have 4 rounds going across the weekend for each of them. So let's just take qualifier 1, which is going to start on February 4th to 7th. Now, you have 4 rounds. 1 round is going to happen on Friday afternoon. That is going to be the opens round. Anyone who is Champions division will be able to play in that. Now, round 2 is going to happen on the afternoon of the Saturday, and you're going to have got top 1,500 teams from round 1 to now play in round 2. To go from round 2 to round 3, which is happening on the same day, on Saturday at night, you have to get in the top 250 teams. Now, once you've done that, you've made it to round 3. To make it into round 4, that's going to happen on Sunday, the next day, which is going to be the set lobbies, you need to get top 33 teams, which obviously makes sense. It's going to be one lobby, 6 rounds. So that's going to be like your normal FNCS Grand Final. So you need to get top 33 teams from round 3. Now, that format is just going to be rinse and repeat for every single qualifying week, of which there are 3. Now, remember as well, there is going to be a bye week before the semi-finals. So let's talk about how semi-finals are going to work. So to make it into the semi-finals from those open rounds, you need to make it to round 4, which is the top 33 teams, and then you need to make top 10 teams. There's 3 weeks, so that's going to be 30 teams that make it through. Now, that's not going to be the only way to make it through, though. They say additional qualifier path. After 3 weeks, the top 102 teams in series points will also advance to the semi-finals for a total of 132 teams in each region progressing the tournament. So now, if you haven't played any of the FNCSs, you don't know how series points work, basically series points are going to be allocated for how well you do in the qualifying weeks, even if you don't make it to round 4, or even if you do but you don't get top 10. So every single round is going to matter, even if you don't get top 10. A lot of people, and I mean more people, are going to qualify. Triple the amount of people are going to qualify right now from consistency than they are going to from the top 10. So just because you're not getting top 10 in round 4, don't stress. This is what motivates you to stay with the team. Stay with the same 2 players so you can accrue series points and qualify. If you split halfway through FNCS or after the first week, you will lose your series qualifier points from before. So make sure you're finding a team and you're going in and you're sticking with that team, because you have 3 times the chance of qualifying off consistency than what you do by getting top 10. And I know what you're thinking, oh, but if you can't get top 10, then what's the point of playing the grand finals? There are plenty of teams in every region that have done phenomenally well in the grand finals. They just didn't do too well in the first few qualifying weeks. So trust me, it is worth finding a team, sticking with them, and getting through on consistency. Now, let's talk about the semi-finals though. So once the teams advance to the semi-finals, they'll be placed into 4 groups in their respective region. Each group consists of 33 unique teams. The top 8 teams from each group will advance to the finals. Teams that place 9th to 16th in each group will compete in a reboot round. So it's very, very simple. If you make it through off consistency, or if you make it through off getting top 10 in those qualifying weeks, you're playing in the semi-finals, you'll get randomly allocated into one of 4 different mini tournaments. Usually, again, they haven't said, but I'm guessing they're going to be 6 rounds, same as they normally are. Top 8 teams go through from each. And I know if you're doing math at home, 8, 16, 24, 32, that only makes 32 teams, where the grand final needs 33 teams. How are they finding the final team? That is the reboot round. So for anyone who comes 9th to 16th in their semi-final match, so anyone who is, the next 8 teams that didn't qualify automatically, they play in the reboot round. Now, the reboot round is super exciting. If you missed this last season, it is literally one game where all of those teams versus each other, and whoever gets the victory royale, not the most points, will qualify to the grand finals. That is intense. Last time, it was super, super exciting. Connorio's team won. They got the victory royale and they qualified for the grand finals. It is super exciting. And that's basically it. That's how you qualify. That is the format for FNCS. And then obviously the grand finals is going to take place with the top 33 teams. It is going to take place on March 12th to March 14th. It's going to take place over 12 games on 2 separate days. Same as last FNCS. It's really about consistency. It's not just 6 games, it's 12. And that's where all the prize money is. That $20 million for the year is going into that. So EU, for example, is going to have over $1.3 million given out on that final second day in grand finals. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I really hope that format explanation helped. I hope you guys are enjoying the team updates, because now we're getting closer to FNCS. There is millions and millions of dollars on the line, especially for grand finals. I am so incredibly hyped, and I'm going to keep you guys up to date with all the best teams, where they're dropping, how they're playing, how they're looking. Again, if you don't know, I do viewing parties for all these tournaments, cash cups, trios, solos, everything on my Twitch channel. That's where I get all this information. I watch all of this live, so please check me out. It's twitch.tv/AussieAntics. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.